It's time!
Now, I don't know too much about the Swiss Army knife here. I know he's a big up-and-comer. He's a bit of a contender right now. I know a bit more about Tyson Pedro. I know he lost his last fight in Australia, and before that, he had some pretty impressive knockouts and TKOs, stuff like that. But so going off of just that, I'm going to kind of give this one to Tyson Pedro because I've seen a bit more of his work. I know a bit more about him, and not to discredit the upcoming Anton from Sweden, but I just know a bit more about Tyson Pedro, so I'm going to pick him.
And this one I would definitely recommend staying away from if you're looking to gamble on these main card bouts, because this could end so many different ways. So first off, you have Anton from Sweden. He won his contract on the Contender Series and then got an absolute killer's row two first fights, taking on Jailton Almeida and Vitor Petrino. Those are two very tough matchups. He lost both of them. Didn't fully get to show, I think, his potential just because, like I said, those are very high-level opponents. So now he's looking to make a statement against Pedro. And I really don't know what to expect from Tyson Pedro, because when he first came into the UFC, he was, an explosive striker and really dangerous fighter, but he just lacked that patience to just kind of take his time, pick his shots. And then in his last fight against Modestas Bukauskas, I thought he kind of just was almost too patient. He let that fight slip away. It was very winnable. And now I'm kind of nervous to pick him because I just think, there was a lot of things that did go wrong in that fight. For this one, though, I think Pedro is going to stay calm. Like I said, once again, be a little bit more loose as the fight goes on and get the win.
It's time!
This is actually a rematch from their first bout, which ended in an accidental eye poke on Tafa, and the fight couldn't go on anymore. So I think because of that, Tafa is going to be a lot more aggressive in this fight. He's going to be a lot more hungry to kind of get some payback against Lane. And not only that, but for some reason or another, everyone with the last name Tafa or from New Zealand or from Australia has just been popping off lately. So I'm going to keep the trend going. I'm going to stick with Justin Tafa after Junior Tafa a few fight cards ago absolutely murked the guy that he was fighting. So I'm going to go with Justin Tafa.
Austin Lane, for those that don't know, was once an NFL player for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He then transitioned to MMA, earned his contract on the Contender Series, and hasn't fought yet in the octagon. The only time he had was against Justin Tafa, but the fight literally ended in like 30 seconds because of an eye poke, so they rescheduled that fight for here. Justin Tafa, I feel like we're starting to finally understand what these certain types of fighters like him are like. They hit very hard, they're very aggressive, but once it starts reaching that top tier talent in their divisions, especially at heavyweight, they tend to lose, as we're starting to see with Tai Tuivasa. So when it comes to Justin Tafa, though, I don't think Austin Lane is in that top tier. So Justin Tafa should be able to go out there, be aggressive, get the job done, and secure a big knockout win.
It's time!
So this is kind of interesting because it was originally supposed to be Manel Kape versus Kai Kara-France, but unfortunately Kara-France got a concussion during training and he was forced to pull out. So this is kind of a late notice fight for Felipe, and because of that, I'm going to give the edge to Manel Kape because I feel like he has a lot more to prove. I've seen a bit of his work, not a whole lot, but I feel like he just has a lot more kind of momentum going right now than Felipe does. And not only that, but I think he's taking this fight on a 2-3 week fight notice. So that's probably going to have a huge effect on his performance or even his camp or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to Manel on this one just for timing and drive.
Now, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I spread a lot of Manel Kape propaganda. I think this guy is going to be a UFC champion in the flyweight division and probably by the end of 2024. So he started out his UFC tenure a little rough. He lost his first two fights against Alexandre Pantoja and Matus Nicolau, which obviously looking back on it now, are two extremely tough opponents. One of them's champ, one of them's a possible future contender. And then from there, he won 3 fights in a row, not against, the best talent, but looked very impressive. The former Risen champion has now endured kind of a tough patch because he's had 5 or 6 fights canceled. And now he finally gets an opponent, Felipe Dos Santos, who is 7-0, former LFA fighter, and I just don't think that he's going to have enough experience. Now, a guy like Dos Santos is obviously, very exciting because he has that shiny undefeated record. You don't really know what to fully expect from him, and he can be somewhat of a wild card. I'm sure he's going to go out there and just kind of let loose. But a guy like Manel Kape is so smart, has so much experience, has a win over Kai Asakura and other guys when he was top tier fighters, when he was in Risen. I think this is where he's going to make a statement, take out Felipe Dos Santos, get that big contender fight next time out, potentially against Kai Car France, and then win the title next year. So I'm going to take Manel Kape here.
This is a bit of a personal fight for me because Tuivasa has become one of my favorite fighters, not just in the UFC, but just all around. I love his personality. I love the way he fights. I love rooting for the big guys, but I'll be the first to say he's been kind of lacking since he finally got up to the big rankings here in the UFC. So I do worry for him a bit here, but it's because of that worry that I think he's going to kind of see that too. He didn't really have the best showing against Cyril Gane. I mean, he was in the pocket, he was fighting, he was not going down without a fight, but I think now that he's seen kind of what the upper echelon of this division has to offer, he's going to come with a much different game plan. He's going to come with a lot more of a head on his shoulder and know kind of what to expect from this division. Now, I know Volkov is very much a fighter, is no one to really, he's a fighter as well. He's nothing to to sneeze at or anything like that, but I'm a Tuivasa stan. I'm going to go with him regardless. I think it's going to be a heck of a slaughter fest either way, but I have to go with my boy Tuivasa for better or for worse.
We all love Tai Tuivasa, but the last 2 fights have shown that he is not necessarily a legitimate title contender, because as soon as he gets an opponent that's not willing to invest in that firefight with him, he tends to get picked apart and then ultimately finished. Now, on the other side, Alexander Volkov, he's been around for a while. So people have, he's had his ups and downs. A lot of people have written him off. But I think he's looked phenomenal in his last 2 fights. He's shown some good improvements. And I think he's about 35 years old, which in heavyweight standards is only about 30 years old for other divisions. I think Volkov has looked phenomenal. I think he's too smart to really get in that firefight. Tai Tuivasa can always go out there and get the knockout. We know that. I think Volkov's going to be really good controlling the distance with his jab, break down Tai Tuivasa, and take him out in the second round.
It's time!
I don't want to be... I know Sean Strickland is an amazing fighter, but I don't think this is really... I don't really think there's a contest in this one. I think Adesanya is on one of those different planes of existence when it comes to fighting in the octagon, in MMA. I think he's just on a different level. And I think after that whole confrontation with Duplessis, he's even more motivated to hold on to this title until he can take it to Duplessis' face, rub it in, and then knock it out. So not that Strickland doesn't deserve the title fight, not that he doesn't have the qualifications, but I just see Adesanya just brutalizing, dominating this whole fight. And if Sean Strickland does pull something out, hey, all the better for him. But I just see Adesanya going to town in the main event in Australia.
There's no sugarcoating this one. Sean Strickland has a very tough fight for him on Saturday night, especially just because Israel Adesanya, he is beatable. It's not like Sean Strickland has no chance. The problem more comes down to the actual styles, and being Sean Strickland, who's an aggressive pressure fighter, especially in the striking department, doesn't really use his grappling skills. I don't think this is going to end well for Sean Strickland, but to be fair, there is certain ways he can win this. Obviously, anything can happen in the octagon, an injury, something like that. I think another problem too, though, is that Sean Strickland looked like he had a really bad weight cut, needed to bring out the tent to get the job done. And I just don't see this ending well for him. So I'm going to take Israel Adesanya, but I'll be more specific on this one. I think it's going to happen one of two ways. I think Adesanya is really going to do some damage with his leg kicks early on, set up, to try to get Strickland to react to those leg kicks, then go up top, land a head kick, get the finish. Or my other way, and this is a kind of a hot take, I think Adesanya might go out there, break him down, stay composed, really put some pain on Strickland because he doesn't like Strickland at all. And there hasn't been a while. It's been a while since Adesanya's really fought someone that he hated, probably last one being Paulo Costa. So I could see a scenario where Adesanya goes out there, breaks him down, a lot of body shots, puts a lot of damage on him. And then as soon as Strickland drops, jump on it, get his first submission finish in the UFC. Somewhat of a hot take, but something to look forward to, or look at, I should say, if you're looking to make some money on the main event.